When we come into this world, we come in as this like pure, untouched version of ourselves, and we come in exactly the way that we were, quote unquote, meant to be designed, how we were meant to land here with all of these archetypes ahead of us. However, the world then can happen to us. So society can tell us to get into the box and stay in the box. And I'll use my own experience for an example as a manifesting generator, and this is something that many manifesting generators have to decondition. As a manifesting generator, society tells us to pick one thing and stick to that one thing consistently until you get results. That does not work for a manifesting generator. We need to pick like 5 things and show up for those 5 things every day, because that keeps us actually energized and engaged and not bored and not wanting to run for the hills. So there's other areas of the chart that are like this, but this is just one way in which understanding your chart allows you to decondition society's expectations of who you are meant to be and come back to who you really are.
Welcome to Cosmic Conversations, the podcast where we dive deep into the multidimensional, the mystical, and the metaphysical to help starseeds and seekers unlock their true soul purpose. I'm your host, Hayden Crawford, and today I'm thrilled to introduce a truly radiant guest, Emily Shine. Emily is an intuitive human design reader, energy worker, and transformational guide who blends modern spiritual practices with the amazing human design system and the gene keys to help people align with their authentic blueprint. So in this episode, Emily will be walking us through the fundamentals of human design, what it is, where it came from, and how it can radically shift how you navigate your relationships, your career, and your energy. But that's not all. Emily's also going to take a deep dive into my own human design chart to give you a real-time example of how this system works in action. So whether you're brand new to human design or already deep into your deconditioning journey, this episode will shine a light on the magic of living in alignment with who you really are. So let's dive in. Welcome, Emily.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me here.
Oh, you're so welcome. And it's such a beautiful name, Emily Shine, as well. It's so fitting for you, I think.
Thank you. Thank you. I get that a lot. And I got married about 5 or 6 years ago, and I never changed my last name. I've done it legally, but I'm keeping Shine as my identity because I really love it too.
I don't blame you. It's a
Yeah.
beautiful name. It's so fitting for the work that you do. So
Thank
for
you.
those who are new to this work, what exactly is human design and how did it come into being?
Huge question, but let's get into it. I'm just going to preface with, if you're a listener and you're watching this, and this is your first inkling of human design, just take little bits at a time because it's a big system, and a lot of people get confused by it, trying to digest the entire system at once and understand everything that I'm going to say. And it's like anything. Imagine looking at astrology for the first time and going, I don't understand every facet, so I'm not going to continue down this rabbit hole. Just take it one step at a time because it's a very big system. But essentially, what human design is it is taking elements from your astrology. So it's got an astrological foundation. So where you were born and when you were born, that's all relevant in this system as well. And it's combining it with some other modalities like the Chinese I Ching and the Kabbalah and the chakra system. And it kind of squashes it into this beautiful multi-modality roadmap of who we are and how we came to be here and how our energy is organized. And the roadmap is a really great analogy when I am, discussing the benefits of human design, because it really is that life is uncharted territory and we're constantly just trying to make our way through. And that's fine. It's meant to be messy. But human design is like having a map. You can still navigate, but you're doing it with ease. It's taking some of the resistance off that. So it really dives into your energy centers, or better known as your chakras, and tells us how they're organized and how they relate to the world, how they relate to others, some personality archetypes that we came here with, and how they play out with our gifts. And it also sort of is a bit of a permission foundation piece, I think, for self-acceptance and self-love, which was a major draw card for me in the work that I was doing with people. There's just a lot of being a square peg in a round hole and trying to be what society asks us to be. And this system's like, hey, stop doing that. You're amazing. This is your amazingness, and live in that amazingness. So how it came to be was by a gentleman called Ra Uruhu. He channeled the system, and then he taught about, I think originally about 5 or 6 people, how to work with this system. One of which was a gentleman called Richard Rudd, who then extended that into what we know now as the gene keys. And I really love how they complement each other. So human design feels very masculine because it's quite linear. It's very, the what, when, where, how, which is great. I think it's great to start there because it is, a little bit easier to digest that. And then the gene keys is the feminine. It's going deeper into those aspects and going, okay, so we can contemplate our life's purpose. We can contemplate our shadows, and we can meditate them and expand, which is a little bit more of what I see the feminine aspect. So they go hand in hand. I hope that was a good explanation.
Oh, that was very good. Yeah, I love it. And absolutely
Yeah.
right. You can't, sort of learn everything in one go. It's a big
No.
subject. It really is. I've been studying it myself as well, for about the last, I don't know, 12 months or so, just off and on. And
Yeah.
it's an experiment, really, isn't it? More than anything else. So, it's not like, oh, all of a sudden, you sort of master your archetype and then, that's who you are. It's almost like you have to feel into it. It's something that evolves over a period of time, and that you should never really say to somebody, oh, you're a 4/6 manifesting generator, because people don't really understand what that actually means. And it's more of this whole experiment. Would you agree with that?
100%. And the word experiment was used from the very beginning, from the gestation of human design. Ra speaks into the experiment. Like that's what he calls it, the experiment. And so when you first discover your human design, it's a process of unpacking that within yourself and experimenting with those energies and seeing if they take a lot of resistance off your life, if it helps you to swim downstream instead of against the stream. And if you're experimenting, you find that to be the case, then you get to keep those traits. But at the same time, if you experimented with any of this and you were like, this just doesn't feel right for me, you've got full permission to not live into those narratives. I think we have to be so careful with anything that we do that we're not dogmatic about things with people. So they have their autonomy, they have their rights to be able to express it the way that they want to express it. But it is definitely so in depth in a sense that you can't just treat someone like their type. So, hello, you're a generator, so you must be X, Y, and Z, because there's so many components to making that generator unique and how they play out.
Absolutely. We are multifaceted and everything plays into it. I often find that numerology plays into human design exceptionally well. And
Yeah.
there's a real beautiful balance between energies that can come in and play off each other. But how does human design differ from these more well-known systems like astrology or the Enneagram and numerology?
How does it differ? Well, there's going to be clear differences when you sit down, but there's also going to be so many similarities. And I actually love that. Speaking to my dear friend Emma, who I believe you've had on the podcast before, when she came and had her first human design reading with me, she was equally blown away by the differences, but at the same time going, that just matches in so nicely with numerology and astrology and all of these things. So I don't think that it is so different, but where it differs is just another layer. Right. So we just have more layers to explore. So I don't know. Some people are very content in the information that they have, and that's a beautiful place for them to be. But for me personally, I love information. I love more layers. I'm like, give me all the layers. Let me explore everything. So I want to do my numerology, my astrology, my human design, my G keys. I want to do everything. I want to absorb what there is to know about my soul and see how it resonates with how I've been living my life. So yeah, it's just another level.
That's brilliant. Yeah, I love that. It absolutely is. It's another beautiful layer of information that you can extract information from and get guidance from. So can you walk us through then the five energy types in human design and their core essence?
Yes, absolutely. Okay, I like to explain this as if we're going to put on a show together because I love algorithms. I love how that lands for us in our brains. So there are five energy types. They are made out of two types of generator. So let's just preface that 73% of the world is a generator type. So we also refer to this in human design as energy beings, and we refer to the other three types as non-energy beings. And there's a reason for that, which I'll come back to. So 73% of you listening are going to be a generator type. And so just to sort of like reiterify that, I am what we call a manifesting generator, and Hayden's a generator. So we are the two types of generators, and that's very common for that to land. So between those two generator types, there is a few similarities and a few differences. The differences would be like the tortoise and the hare. So the tortoise is a little bit more methodical, a little bit more consistent. We'll put one foot in front of the other and get to the end. The hare will take 50,000 detours and then eventually meet the tortoise at the same time. So it's not about who's better, it's just the way we do things differently. I don't love that we use the word manifester in human design because it really, for people who don't understand it, when they first, are open to human design, they think, I want to be a manifester. I want to manifest. Everyone can manifest. It's got nothing to do with manifesting. I really think it should have been initiator or initiating energy. So manifestors and manifesting generators, they have more of an initiating energy. They kind of have this force, this push that gets things moving. So generators are a little bit more consistent. Manigens are a little bit not as consistent. They need to multitask. They need to do a million things at once. We're a bit ADHD. That's really the main difference between the two. So the generators in our play would be the cast, the crew, the lighting directors, anyone doing the work. They really came here to thrive in what society asks us to be, in a sense of working, long hours and having families and all these commitments and keeping up with all of it. That's what the generators were really here to do. Their inner essence is to master their craft over time. So they have to really love what they're doing. It's so important. If you don't love what you're doing and you're a generator type, you'll feel tired, you'll feel worn out, you're not going to love it. And the generators are the types in the world that when you are feeling tired and worn out, you actually need to move your body. You need to do more, and that will help you feel better. Whereas all the other types, that's terrible advice for, which is another reason I love this system, because we give these pieces of advice out willy-nilly without knowing people's constitutions. And it's like, that's not going to work for that person, but it'll work for this person. And then the person that it didn't work for feels like they're broken. So that's our generators. They're the cast, the crew, the workers. The next type is our projector. Our projector is 23% of the world, and they're like the directors of the show. So they are able to penetrate the veil of what they can see in front of us. They are very detail orientated. They can see what needs to be improved, and they pick that up and they sort of get in there, and they have a penetrating aura. So they get in there and like, hey, I know how we can do this more effectively. I know how we can do this better. I know how we can refine this. They do that, and then they pull back and they need to rest because they're a non-energy being. So they don't have the sustained energy that the generator does. They work smarter, not harder. That is their motto. And that's all the non-energy types are here to work smarter, not harder. They're not here to push the 9 to 5. Not to say that if you're a generator, you have to do that, but they are just not here to push that. So they're the directors of the show. They are 23% of the world. Then we've got our manifestors / our initiators. They are 8% of the world, and they would have come up with the idea for the play maybe. They would have maybe given us the building for the play to exist in the first place, or maybe they wrote the script. They initiated the play's existence and then smoke bombed out of there. So they're not there to carry things through to the end. A lot of manifestors, when they discover their design, they're like, I've sort of half done a lot of projects in my life. Like, I feel bad about that. But that's actually one of the things that they really thrive at. They can initiate from nothing. As generators, we can initiate from a response, whereas a manifester can initiate from absolutely nothing, thin air. It's like those social media posts will pop into their brains without them thinking about it. Just bang, here's a creative, wild idea. And it's not in response to a need or a feeling or a gut, a gut knowing, nothing. It's just bang, it's there. So that's why they get that initiator title. And then the last type is our 1% of the world, and they would be our reflectors, and they are the audience. So they are constantly reflecting back to us the state of our world. They are very they're very changeable creatures. Like they change with their environment based on what's happening around them. So sometimes their mood can be up or down just depending on what's happening. Reflectors are pretty amazing, but they do feel a lot of what's going on around them and reflect it back to them. They do have a Teflon layer to their aura, so they don't necessarily take it on and make it their own, but they feel it and reflect it back all the time. So they're 1%. And I know probably about 6 of them in my life, and they're all amazing people. They would do amazing work with healing and with children and with animals because they are all sort of designed to they're not self as disappointment, so they often feel disappointed by humanity. But of course, things like children and animals, they're so pure, so you can't be disappointed by them. So they have those giant hearts in that way. So they're our audience. So that's the way I like to sort of just tip of the iceberg, all 5 types.
Perfect. I love the way you've just explained that. Makes it so simple to understand as well, which is brilliant because, really, these things can feel overwhelming if, you're presented with way too much information too quickly. But the way you've described that, it's like, oh, we can all start feeling into that ourselves and like, oh, well, I think I might be that, even before what you are, you can start feeling into it. So,
Mm.
what are strategy and authority in human design, and why are they so essential for living in alignment?
Yeah. Okay. So every type has a strategy. So your strategy won't change based on your type. Like if the generators and the money gens have a strategy, your projectors, your reflectors, they all have their own strategy. Your authority will change based on where you've got colored in shapes in your chart. That's the simplistic way of putting that. So it goes on a level of hierarchy. So if the solar plexus is colored in, you are absolutely an emotional being, no matter what your type is. If the sacral is colored in, then you can only be a generator because generators are the only type that have a colored in sacral. So that's straight away a process of elimination. But if that's colored in and your solar plexus is not colored in, like Hayden's chart is, and like mine is, that means we're sacral authorities because that's the one that's colored in. So it's going like a process of elimination along the chart. So, your authority and your strategy is how you can make decisions within your life that are best for you in a way that is not going to trip you up and are not going to create as much resistance for you. So, it's a really important part of the human design system because there's so much convoluted and complex parts of the human design system. And these are not the important things to digest at the start. The most important thing to digest is your strategy and authority. And so, when you're questioning yourself and you're like not really sure what to do, or you're trying to make a big decision, follow your strategy and authority, follow your strategy and authority. So we like drum it into you. What's your strategy? What's your authority? So I'll touch on a couple of the common strategies so that people can sort of get a gist of what this really feels like. So for a generator, I mentioned it before, it's response. So when we make a decision, we have to have something to respond to. If we don't have something to respond to, it's like throwing a spaghetti at the wall and just trying to see what will stick. And so this is another reason why I love this system. It kind of gives us like real time things to work with, right? So response could be a need. It could be someone actually asking you for something. It could be an internal sort of like gut knowing that you need to do something. It could be a sign from the universe, like anything that's in front of you, kind of like allowing your energy to bounce off it. That is what we can respond to. This is not where we respond to. So our brain is not where we respond to. So if we're trying to make a decision with a pros and cons list, that is not following our strategy. We're trying to think ourselves into a decision. So the projectors, the 23% of the world, their strategy is to wait to be invited or wait to be recognized. And the reason for that is that they have that penetrating aura that I mentioned before. So when they come with their beautiful wisdom and their advice, which is often amazing wisdom and advice, by the way. If it's not invited, so if someone's not open to hearing that advice, it can feel very invasive for the person that's receiving it. So it could feel condescending for them, maybe. And so the projector will receive backlash from that. And that would be hurtful for them because projectors really, really want to be recognized for their wisdom and their talents and their gifts. So when they've got this resistance coming at them and all they were trying to do was help, then it makes the projector feel quite bad. Or they might just pour all this time and energy into someone who's not actually open to hearing what they have to say or receiving their wisdom, and they've wasted their time there. So that's why if they're invited, so the invited it can sound or look like someone literally inviting them, or it could be more of like a non-verbal. So is someone engaging with you? Are they open? Is their body language saying, yes, I want more of this? Or are they talking over you, not recognizing you, closing you off? That's not an invitation. So that's following two of the major strategies.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I love that. And so, me being a sacral authority, I have to sort of trust my gut, and I have to sort of go uh-huh or and I have to try and really feel into those responses. And it's interesting because at first, when I tried to figure all this out, I was a bit like, well, I don't know whether I'm going uh-huh or uh-huh. What what does all that
Yeah.
mean? And how can you,
Yeah.
sort of help people with that?
Yeah. So for those of you who are sacral authorities, like Hayden and I, it's a gut knowing. Now, I must preface that there is one exception to this rule, and that is if they have the 3420. I just had to remind myself that the 3420 is a channel that directly connects the sacral to the throat. And in this instance, they actually don't need to say aha, They can say yes or no because it's a direct line. So they're the only manigens, they have to be manigens because only manigens have this channel. That can say yes or no verbally. Otherwise, it's a body knowing, it's a body intelligence. So yeah, non-verbal, It's trying to get out of the head and into the body because the body knows. But you can also notice your own body language. So as you're trying to like make this decision or you're talking to someone about something, are you leaning forward? Are you leaning into them? That's a yes. That's a body yes. Are you sort of moving backwards? Are you feeling constricted? That's a body no. So the sacral authority is a fairly quick knowing authority. It's honestly, in my opinion, I might be biased, but in my opinion, I think it's the easiest one to have because we can really tap into what we want pretty fast. And we've also got a bit of grace period. Like it stays rumbling away in there, unlike the spleen, which is also really fast, yes or no, but it's yes or no, and then it leaves. So the sacral is like, yes, yes. You know it's a yes. You know it's a yes. You're ignoring your yes. Like it's there. We don't have to wait for it. We just need to tune into that body intelligence.
Yeah, when we don't listen to our yes and we go for the no, we often find that life doesn't work out for us in the way that we hope it's going to. It's so
Exactly.
accurate in the way it helps and guide us, move us forward. So many people talk about deconditioning in this system, don't they? So what does that mean in practical terms, and how can we begin?
Okay, so when we come into this world, we come in as this like pure, untouched version of ourselves, and we come in exactly the way that we were quote unquote meant to be designed, how we were meant to land here with all of these archetypes ahead of us. However, the world then can happen to us. So society can tell us to get into the box and stay in the box. And I'll use my own experience for an example as a manifesting generator, and this is something that many manifesting generators have to decondition. As a manifesting generator, society tells us to pick one thing and stick to that one thing consistently until you get results. That does not work for a manifesting generator. We need to pick like five things and show up for those five things every day because that keeps us actually energized and engaged and not bored and not wanting to run for the hills. So there's other areas of the chart that are like this, but this is just one way in which understanding your chart allows you to decondition society's expectations of who you are meant to be and come back to who you really are. And so Ra says that this process takes 7 years from the moment you start deconditioning to the moment you can like be deconditioned. As a kinesiologist, and a manifesting generator who likes to do things at warp speed, I couldn't agree with that. I couldn't agree with putting a timeline on something and putting something in a box. I just felt like there was another box. So a lot of my work has been around the deconditioning process by fusing human design and kinesiology together so that we can go into the centers, into the gates and actually ask what conditioning is held there and what the body needs in order to lay new neural pathways and heal that part of ourselves so we can decondition a lot faster. Spoken like a true Manny Gen. We like to skip steps.
I don't blame you. Who's got 7 years? We might all be dead and buried by then.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
but so for those people that don't know what kinesiology is, could you just explain briefly, what
Yeah.
it is and what type of kinesiology you do, whether you do the muscle testing with fingers or, the pinching of the muscles?
Yeah, so another huge topic. I often laugh at the fact that I've picked probably two of the most complex things to describe to someone just randomly off the street who doesn't know what they are. But kinesiology does come in many different forms. Here in Australia, we have different levels of kinesiology that you can learn. I'm a diploma level kinesiologist, so we work with the whole system. We work with cells and hormones and neurotransmitters and all these wonderful things. And we access that information via muscle testing. So, although, yes, I use my finger muscle testing all the time for things for myself, we generally use the client's body, and we can use any muscle in the body and muscle test that. But generally, we use either the deltoid or the brachioradialis, which is in the arm, to access what's going on there. So, based on the muscle's response, then we can identify whether there's stress being held there. So, we're just asking questions basically, and then reading the muscle's response. Is the muscle going into hypertonicity or hypotonicity? And based on that level of hyper or hypotonicity, we can kind of gauge how stressed the body is around that topic, and then allow the body to lead us through a series of questions to what it needs in order to heal itself, which is very empowering for the body.
That's brilliant. I love the way that you combine your gifts with kinesiology because it is a gift. You know, it's not for everybody. I tried to learn kinesiology and I zoned out. I found I wasn't reading the energy of the muscles clearly enough. I couldn't do it. It was just one of those things that I was like, no, this isn't for me, but I admire anybody that really gets it. And the way you've been able to blend it beautifully with human design is a real gift. So, well done. I think that's so good.
I must say, I teach muscle testing and kinesiology. It is a language in itself. Like it is like learning Japanese for the first time. If you don't already speak Japanese, I should preface that. It's a whole new language. It just drops in after consistent practice. Like it's like literally you'll just wake up one day and you'll be able to do it. So, if you were ever interested in going back into it, give it some time before you really think you're just not getting it. Because every single one of my students, and even myself when I was learning it, felt exactly the same way. I just don't get it. I'm not reading it properly. It's not happening. And then one day, bang, the language between your body and the client's body, it just something happens, and you can start to pick these muscles up to such a tiny, tiny degree. So, and I
Oh,
think your teachers, having the right teacher helps a lot, a lot.
absolutely. It's that old adage, isn't it? Of practice makes perfect,
Yeah.
if you give up too soon. But then I suppose that's the manifester, isn't it? So they start
Yes.
a lot of projects and they don't
Yeah.
always finish them. That's why it took me 8 years to write my book. And
Yeah.
so it was
Yeah.
like it took a long time. So how can human design help people feel more confident and empowered in their career or even their relationships?
Oh, in so many ways. And like to go into all of the ways, I would be here all day talking to you. So I'll preface that it is a permission piece. So a lot of the reasons why we don't feel good about ourselves is that we're trying to be something that we're not because society has told us to be this way. So when we really understand how we were designed to be, and we give ourselves permission to be that person, then it helps us exponentially in our lives to feel more confident in our workplaces, in our relationships. And also, when we look at human design from our partner's perspective and we understand who they are, we stop trying to unintentionally change the way that they are coming at things differently to us. So, I'm a non-emotional, so I have an undefined emotional center, meaning I'm a sacral being who makes decisions very fast based on my gut knowing. My husband is the opposite. He is an emotional. He has a defined solar plexus. It means he makes his decisions by sitting with things for a long time, really feeling into things. So before I understood human design, imagine that dynamic. He's going, you're making decisions too quickly, too hastily. And I'm like, you are sitting on things for too long. Do it my way. No, do it my way. And it's like now, no, you have to do it that way. That's how you're designed. I can't change the way that you are meant to be, and you can't change the way that I'm meant to be. We need to lovingly respect and make space for each other's natural tendencies to exist within this world. So it really helps a lot with relationships and with children. I have three children, understanding their ways. It's just incredible, but it always comes back to being a permission piece to be yourself. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And it's so interesting because my husband is also an emotional response. So he's the solar plexus. And I feel exactly the same way. Sometimes I was, I was almost becoming quite judgy because it's like, well, I could just make decisions so quickly and everything has to be processed, and I'm like, it takes too
Come
long.
on.
Yeah, just come on, I'm ready. So yeah, it's one of the biggest things that I feel has helped me, human design with the relationship understanding, alongside obviously the numerology, but it helped me just accept him for who he was 100% instead of being a little judger.
Yeah.
Now, let's dive deeper into my chart then, because I'm super
Yeah.
excited now because I think that I've got the gist of my chart, but I'd love your perspective on it. So,
Yes.
if you explain, I know I'm a 4/6 generator with emotional authority. Um,
Have we got the right details for you? I don't know if I have the right because I've got you as a 3/5 generator, non-emotional.
oh, what
Oh.
birthday have you got for me?
Would you want me to say it?
Yeah, go for it. I don't mind people know my birthday.
16th of October.
Yeah, 1972.
Yeah. And I've got you at 11:25. Is it AM?
It is 11. Let me just double check my records. Here we go. So my human design is 11:25 p.m.
Ah, that's where it's gone wrong. Give me one
Oh,
second. Let
oh,
me just,
okay. Because
I put you in AM. So that's a good testament to know that the time really does matter.
that makes a
So
big difference.
yeah. So if you are doing your human design and or your astrology, make sure that you have your correct time or as close to your correct time as possible. So even like just the biggest shifts happen between sort of like midday, so like morning and afternoon, and then sort of evening as well. So you're really getting close to that next day at 11:25. You're always clocking over to midnight. So yes, now I've got you as a 4/6 generator. Yes. Yep.
Yes.
Cool. Awesome.
Good. Oh,
Not
wonderful.
much else has changed there, but
Lovely.
the profile line has, and that's yeah, that's quite significant. The profile line. Yes. So let's dive into your chart. What questions have you got?
Well, the 4/6, the way I understand it is that I have to network. I've got to
Mhm.
use my network, and that's the four. And then the six is I have to teach, but from a distance. And
Yeah.
that works for me. I find if I try and teach in classroom environments, that I get so drained by the energy of the students, in the nicest possible way. It's just they bombard me. But when I'm
Yes.
teaching online, I feel energized, I can do it, I prefer it.
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, you are so living out your design. Like even because there's a few components in here that I read before we jumped on, and I'm like, wow, he's really living out his design. And now changing your profile line just like further amplifies that. It doesn't actually take away from that. But your fours will they're the opportunists, so they create opportunities for themselves and for their community through and via their community. So, by you having these community networks, you're opening doors for yourself, but you're also opening doors for your entire community by connecting people together. And it's such a connective archetype to live in. So, yes, you are built to have these conversations with people. But the difference between the 4 and the 5, which inevitably is what I had you at before, is the 4 is more about those in-depth one-on-one conversations, whereas the 5 is like, I'll stand up and talk to all of you at once. So it makes total sense that you're feeling more drawn to teaching that way. But to further kind of like dig into what you do and how your profile line plays out that way is that your unconscious sun is in gate 62, which is a throat gate, and it's all about practical knowledge, and the throat gates are all about communication. The unconscious sun, which is in our red section of our human designs chart, that is what everyone sees in us before we see it within ourselves. It's our natural born gifts, our natural born talents. And in the gene keys, it sits in our radiance key. So it's what keeps us radiant and healthy and happy and swimming along. So as someone who sort of, sits in a space of podcasts and teaching online and things like that, you're using your voice to instill practical knowledge into other people, and that's keeping you radiant. So it's like so perfect for you. And that is what is flavored by the six, because our unconscious is the body and it's flavored by the six, whereas your 32 is flavored by your four. So the six is often burnt out and drained. As we age, we get more burnt out and drained by people. So you might have felt like prior to 30, you were like all about being in the social environments. Like, you might have been like party boy being the fourth line, like, you know, more energies to delve into, the better. And then as you started to age, you were like, oh, this is really draining. I can't. Like post 30, it would have started to hit you. And then, as you got to your 50th year, which was, recently, it's even more amplified that no, I really need space between me and society. Otherwise, I'm going to be drained.
Oh, it's 100% that. Exactly. Yeah, I was a right party animal,
Yeah.
and now it's like, just give me my dogs. I just want to stay in, the bin goes out more than I do. It really does. So I get it. So what about yourself then? So what's your combination and how does it play out for you?
I am a 3-5 sacral manigen, and a three is the experimenter, right? Like the trial and error. We're very messy, not like untidy, but messy as in our life is a bit like chaotic. And so is the manigen. So I am the epiphany of somebody who just has a million things on the go and doing all the things. But the three is conscious to me. Like I'm very aware that I love to try different things and dip in and out and all of that sort of thing. But the five is called the heretic. So, the five is the one that will stand on stages and speak to the world globally and be around all these energies and people. The five lives in a projection field. So, and for those projectors with fives in their charts, by the way, you are living in the double projection field. So that's a whole thing in itself. What the projection field is that people will project onto you their opinion and what they feel you represent to them before they even get to know you. So a 3-5's are tough because threes are very inherently human and we love the messiness of the human experience. We very, very, very aware of that and we don't want to change that. We're always up for self-development, but also we are here to have a human experience, not a spiritual experience. We're humans having a spiritual experience, not a spirit having a human experience. Like we're meant to be messy and make mistakes. So the fifth line, when they do make those mistakes and they do get messy, I guess, yeah, they can really be ridiculed for that from time to time. So it is a bit of a tough profile line to have as a 3-5, but I think a lot of 3-5s when they have their first solar return around 30 sort of start to stop worrying so much about what other people think and they just sort of live in the magic of wanting to help the world, which is what the fifth line really inherently wants to do. And so yeah, that's definitely something that I really resonated with when I found human design. I'm like, oh my God, this is me. It's the martyr heretic. We just want to help everyone. And but then there's people like, whoa, you're a human. And it's like, yeah, didn't you know that?
It's so interesting because you can so see that you're a 3-5.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
written all over your face.
yeah,
Now,
yeah,
the 4-6 profile is often called the opportunist role model, isn't it? So
yeah.
how might that show up for someone like me in real life or in business?
Yeah, so the 4-6, my mum's a 4-6. Like I've had a lot to do with 4-6s, and a 4-6, they do hold the knowledge, but because they really desire to have deep, meaningful connections with somebody, sometimes I guess like the shadow aspect of the 4-6 is that sometimes they can attract relationships where people are kind of oh, how do I put this? They want something from the 4-6. They're here to get something from you. And the four in you that's conscious is like, but I just want to be your friend. Like I just want to really get to know you. And the attraction of the six is like, but I want to learn from you. I want all your resources. Like I want something, this role model energy guide me. And so there can be imbalances within relationships with the 4-6 sometimes because you really want that deep connection, but people are coming to you to lead them. And sometimes you just want to chill out and just have a bit of fun.
Exactly. There isn't such a thing in my life as having a bit of fun anymore. No, that's
Uh,
it. I'm just
uh,
everyone's role model now. That's it. I've just resigned to
yeah.
the fact. Now, the right angle cross of Maya is what comes up
Mm,
when I've done my chart. What does this mean? Because
yeah.
this is where I've kind of like zoned out a little bit because it starts getting really in depth when we start looking at all of that.
It
How does
does.
it signify in terms of life purpose or destiny?
So the incarnation crosses, they combine the four. So your conscious sun and your unconscious sun. And I'm trying to think of the chart in front of me, and the unconscious earth and the conscious earth. So those top four planets, they make up your incarnation cross. So when you look at it on a mandala, on the rave mandala, which is your human design sort of like circle. Sometimes you'll see, have you seen the circle played out
Hmm.
before? It's like the body graph in the middle and the circle. You'll see how those planets kind of play out on four like opposite sides of each other. You can draw a cross right through the middle. So that's where the cross comes from. And there's 162, I think, off the top of my head, different incarnation crosses. There are a few that are more common than others. Maya is one of them. The vessel of love is definitely one of them. That one comes up a lot. And those of you who know people who are vessels of love, you really feel that because they are exactly what the name explains. But yeah, so you kind of are taking those components of all four of those planets. Like if you get to know each of those four planets individually, then you'll see how they all play out within your incarnation cross, which is all about your destiny and what you're here to do. So Maya is all about sort of initiating deep thinking within yourself and within others. So again, it's another way you're really playing out in the work that you're doing because it's all about, spirituality and what goes beyond these flesh sacks that we're walking around in. Although it is about, I guess, initiating these deep thoughts, there's also, and I would also put this down to your 62, which is a part of your incarnation cross. There's also an element of logic and reasoning to how you present your information if you're a Maya. So it can't just be fluff, like it really has to have a foundations in actuality. So I don't know you well, but I would say, based on your human design, that you really would love that piece where science and spirituality kind of mesh together.
I do,
Yeah.
and I think that's possibly why I enjoyed my conversation with Emma Janetsky so much as well, because she has that very significant crossover in her blueprint as well. Um, Now, the channels and the gates
Mhm.
as well, because I think this is all based around the Kabbalah, isn't it? It's the Kabbalistic tree of life, and how that's incorporated
It
within,
is. And the gates are the Chinese I Ching. Yeah.
and the gates are the Chinese I
Chi-
Ching.
yes, yeah. So there's 64 Chinese I Chings, and there's 64 gates in the human design chart, and there are 64 gene keys. So they all go back to the I Ching.
Okay, so are there any channels or gates in my chart that really stand out to you or confirm parts of my life journey so far?
Yeah, definitely. So, the 62 has been the big standout piece just based on what we're doing, because the 62, again, throat gate, all about practical thinking and talking, but it is a communication gate. But if I look through just quickly, what's your channels? You've got perfected form. So that's the 1057. So the 1057 is a really interesting channel in a sense that you really do perfect things over time, and when you take something in its raw elements, you can again, I'm using the word time, it's time and diligence to put into that thing to help it to grow. The shadow aspect of that can be perfectionism, so you really like things to be done perfectly. So if you can get over that tendency for perfectionism, which I'm sure you have, but by the rest of your chart, looking at your wisdom there, you can really just delve into things. And that perfected form just doesn't talk to your projects and the things that you're birthing, but it also talks to yourself and your self development, because the 10 is the gate of self love. And it's so much about learning about what makes us tick, and what are our core wounds, and how do we ourselves take responsibility for those core wounds and do the self work in order to come out of this stage of our life with a clearer, deeper understanding of what we need in order to heal. So I've always said that gate 10 people are my people, because we take huge responsibility for our healing and for our journey in this life. And the perfected form channel is definitely about that self-work, that self-development to become the best versions of ourselves. So do you relate with that?
Oh, 100%. I guess that's why, sort of it took me 8 years to write my book, and it's not even
Mm.
that thick. And it's because I wanted everything to be just right. And when I do my sessions with the color mirrors, I'm very methodical in the way that I approach the information, and I want it to be delivered in a way that's relatable and understandable and beneficial. So, um, yeah, I'm certainly a perfectionist, but I have mastered the need to be perfect in everything, and I'd rather get
Yeah,
published now than be perfect, because if
yeah,
I was waiting to be perfect, then probably would never get anything done. So I can accept my flaws a lot better now. But when it's going out to a broad audience, then I just want it to be accurate.
yes,
So there is a sense of responsibility that I feel like I have to, present information correctly. So when I create reports for people, um, there's no room for error on those, because people take them, exceptionally seriously, and
mm.
it's a huge responsibility.
Yeah, and that is, I guess, the higher expression of the gate and the channel, and I could see by the other elements of your chart, being the sixth line, being post 50, like all of those things where just a preface for the people playing at home, six lines go for three phases of their lives. So 0 to 30, 30 to 50, and 50 onwards. 0 to 30, they are in the thick of the third line. So they are acting like a third line, like me, where they are trial and error and throwing themselves into the fire to see if it's hot, all of that sort of learning through doing. And then when they hit 30 onwards, they go on the roof. This is human design talk. They go on the roof. So you imagine being on the roof and having this, like, outlook on what's happening below you. So you become more observant. And a lot of the time, the sixth line in their post 30 years are healing from all of the stuff they did in the first 30 years. So they do a lot of self work in that time and they become very self aware. And then they get to their 50th year and become the role model. So that's where the wisdom comes in. And so, all of that perfectionism stuff would have been really real for you in your first. Probably, yes, in your first 30 years, but because of all the trial and error, it would have been really hard to like keep up with the perfectionist stuff. But yeah, really in that sort of 30 to 50, that would have been where it was really strong for you. But you've come to that realization that actually, hey, I don't need it to be perfect as long as it's accurate and I'm delivering, good information because that's important to my integrity and that's also in your chart.
That's absolutely true. Yeah, that feels so right. There was this aspect of all the shame and all the guilt for my previous behaviors, up to the age of 30, that came up at night time. And I was like, oh my God, what have I done?
Yeah, yeah,
What have I
yeah.
done? Oh my God, oh my God. I'm going to be damned to hell, eternal punishment, because I've just been such a bad person, So I had to work through all of that stuff and realize that actually, oh, you learn from your mistakes, and, so everyone makes mistakes, and rah, rah. And you get to a place of inner peace with it all. And I think, so I'm glad that I'm in my this phase of the six.
Yeah.
It feels a lot calmer and a lot more generous, to me as well, which is great. So yeah, thank you so much for exploring my human design in such great detail there. I loved that. And I know there's loads more facets to it, but we can't obviously go into all of it during today's show. But I would like to sort of shift the focus now, if it's okay with you, onto gene keys and the
Yeah.
integration of the gene keys. So, what are they,
Yeah.
and how do they build on the foundations of human design?
Yeah. Okay. So they are, let's explain them as spheres. So they are taking the gates from your human design chart. They will be translatable over into your gene keys. You can start with gene keys and go into human design. People do it that way. Lots of people do it that way. I think if you haven't heard of either of them, start with human design, then move into the gene keys because I just feel like I don't know. It just the getting there linear is easier to put in place and then going into the non-linear, which is what the gene keys is. It's non-linear. So you have this graph and it's basically all these spheres and there's three pathways within the gene keys. And we're meant to just explore each of these pathways one by one, starting with our activation sequence. So the activation sequence are the same gates, planets, whatever you want to refer to them as your incarnation cross. So, they will make up those same four that we talked about. They become your activation sequence. So that's the first place that you want to start. So it talks about your life's purpose, your life's work, your radiance, and your vehicle. So it's like, your work, what you came here to do, the vehicle in which you kind of like play in order to get there, your radiance, which is how you stay radiant and happy and healthy throughout that process, and then who you are, who you came to be, not so much what you came to do. So that's your deeper inner wisdom. So that would be your first sequence to go into, and then we go into the pearl and into the golden path, and it's just the whole thing, right? So we always want to start with the activation because it's more complex and you will get really confused. So I won't go into the other areas, but if you wanted to have a look at your activation sequence, then it's really about getting to know that number. What is that number? What is that gene key? What is that gate? What does it mean? What is the shadow? Which is, where we have a tendency to go into our shadow selves. What is the gift, which is what we want to contemplate when we recognize we're in our shadow. And then we've got our city, which we're not really meant to focus on our city, which is the highest expression of this energy. It is just there as our highest expression. If we want to put it in, spiritual terms, that's when we reach enlightenment with that energy. So we're really not supposed to focus on that. We're really just supposed to focus on the gift and playing into the gift. And if we can play into the gift enough, we will just naturally reach our acidic state with it. It's all about expectations and setting the bar in a realistic way. So as a lived experience of this, my radiance key is gate 35 or gene key 35. And 35 is all about, trial and error and wanting to experience lots of different energies and adventure, essentially. And the city, or sorry, the shadow of the gene key 35, this is my radiance key, this is what keeps me healthy, is hunger. So hunger for new adventure, hunger for more information, hunger for something. So just to further go into how like deep this is, each of those gene keys, each of the Chinese I Chings, the gates, they come from they come from the Chinese I Ching, and they have a DNA codon attached to them, and they have a amino acid attached to them. So amino acids make up our DNA. So we talk about like 12-strand DNA activation and all that kind of stuff, right? So we can go deep into this. Is what I do with the kinesiology stuff, by the way. When we look at these gates, what's in your radiance key? My shadow is hunger, and the amino acids that's attached to 35 is tryptophan, which is what keeps us happy, and it's a precursor of things like dopamine. So what happens when I'm not giving myself enough adventure, enough excitement to delve into new areas of knowledge? If I'm just kind of living this mundane life where I'm putting one foot in front of the other like society would have me do, I go dopamine mining and I get hungry and I eat and I do all the things that I'm not supposed to do, right? So understanding my radiance key and how it all worked chemically for me, scientifically for me, was a big turning point, because I'm like, okay, well, I need lots of variety and lots of, adventure in order to stay healthy and radiant and make better choices with, what I put into my body and what I allow my body to have in it from a space of dopamine mining and being hungry. So looking at your radiance key can be a huge point, a turning point for people, as well as understanding your life's purpose and your life's work and your vehicle. But I don't know if I've confused people with the
Oh
gene
no,
key.
I don't think you did. I think what you made very clear there is, how understanding the gene key can affect you physically,
Yeah,
because, if you're going to get hungry and if you didn't know that, you might end up, becoming obese later on down the
exactly.
track. So this helps you to understand what fuels, those responses. And it's great that you've got that sort of um, more scientific aspect to it as well, where you can extract that information about the body and how it responds in certain ways, because it makes it more relatable, I think, to the people that you're working with. Um, is it quite easy to calculate the significant gene keys? Like, for example, just from a snapshot of looking at my human design, can you note any specific gene keys that are significant within my chart?
Yeah, because when you look at your first four, then they're going to be your activation sequence. So as I said before, the 62 for you is your radiance key. So, keeping in alignment with what you're doing at the moment, with making sure that you are sharing information and knowledge and you know, giving it out practically. Like if you weren't doing that, if you were in a profession that didn't allow you to use your voice in that way, then that would go against your radiance and it would actually make you unhealthy. You might fall into the shadow aspect of the gate 62, which I can't think of at the top of my head. You know, and start playing out those themes in your life, and that will, you know, get you off track. So it's definitely worthwhile. I mean, Richard Rudd, he has the Gene Key book, which you can buy, you know, online or, you know, via Kindle and all that kind of stuff. And it goes through all 64 of the gene keys, and you can calculate your gene key chart at it like for free online, right? So you can take that and you can look at your activation sequence and really dive into Richard Rudd's book about each of the keys, you know, that relate to you significantly, and find out, you know, what's the shadow and what's the gift. And again, look at the city, but you don't need to focus on that. You know, so I can look at that 35 and go, oh, I'm hungry. Well, what's the gift? The gift is like adventure, right? So I just need to like find that adventure, and then I will take away from this. And when I say hungry, I don't mean like, you know, I'm hungry, I need to eat something. I mean like, oh, you know, I'm craving things that are not good for me. Well, I'm craving things that are not good for me because I'm craving a dopamine hit, and I know that's in my radiance key. So I'm doing something that I shouldn't. So I need to get back on alignment with it. But this is where it becomes more feminine, because it's all about contemplation. It's not about just knowing something. It's about really sitting with it and really thinking about it, maybe journaling with it, like really unpacking why you go into those cycles, those shadow aspects of yourself, and remembering the gift. But I think the piece about the body is a big piece, because when we have all of these different modalities that we can look at ourselves from a knowing, from conscious knowing perspective, and we can relate to astrology, human design, G keys, numerology, all of that stuff. We can sit down and go, this is who you're meant to be, and this is your gifts and your talents and blah blah blah. But if you've had a whole heap of conditioning, so you have these limiting belief systems sitting in your cellular structure, how easy is it and how hard is it sometimes when you know you're meant to be a certain way and you feel you want to be, but you're just stuck in this endless loop of I can't do it for some reason. Like there's this limiting belief there. And that very regularly can be in the body, can be in the actual body itself. So yeah, I think it's really important to combine these modalities with some kind of physiological healing as well.
When you talk about physiological healing as well, are you talking about the practice of kinesiology as a way of being able to create the new neural pathways, etc., or maybe some shadow work in a child healing to overlay the limiting beliefs that have been formulated from the wounded aspects within a child? Is that how you can sort of, is that layer of work then necessary before you can fully align with your gene keys and human design, or is it a
I think that
byproduct?
would I think that would be a matter of opinion, but
Yeah.
my opinion would be, I mean, kinesiology is how I do it, but I think any type of somatic healing, it's really up to the individual. But I just feel like it's a really tall order and a high expectation for someone to sit down with a list of instructions on how they're meant to play out. If they've got all this conditioning that goes deeper than the conscious knowledge, you know, you could know that you're living out a pattern and you're aware of that pattern, but you can't break it for some reason. Every single time you go back to the thing, you keep doing the same thing, and you're like, oh, why do I keep doing this? Because it often goes deeper than the conscious mind. It goes into the subconscious programming, the neurological pathways, the cellular memory. So I think any type of, you know, particularly in my opinion, somatic healing, so anything that gets into the physical structure of the body, because our body keeps score of everything. And there's so many books that we can read to attest to this phenomenon. So we can't just stop at the knowing. I feel that we really need to get into the healing as well. But I certainly don't think kinesiology is the only way to do that. I think there's wildly large amounts of different things that we can do to get that. But I just want to preface it because I don't want people to sit down and read these charts and be like, I would love to be that way. I've been trying to be that way, but I can't be that way. I don't know what's happening. I've read it so many times. I know, but I can't be. Why? And it's because there could be more there, you know?
A lot of it comes from the belief systems. Yeah, if you don't believe that you are that, then you're not going to be it.
Exactly.
It goes back to the basics really. So you're looking at where those beliefs were formulated, and often it is from the woundings of the child, but sometimes it comes in with you as well, doesn't it, from parallel previous incarnations.
100. Yeah.
So there is
Yeah.
there's a lot of digging to do, I think. So it's great that you've brought that point up. because I think it is an essential point to make, because I think a lot of people may find themselves getting despondent because they're not living up to their full potential. And that's, that's a natural sort of response, I think. But, when you go, right, okay, so what this means then is I have to go deeper first, and in order for me to be able to fully, find that true alignment and anchor that within my body, my mind, my soul, then there's almost like a stepping stone, isn't there, into the next layer of awakening. Okay, so there's something really poetic, isn't there, about the shadow, the gift, and the city frequencies. Can you explain how they relate to our personal transformation?
Well, I think we all have our shadow aspects, and we're all I don't want to say we're all, but most of us are somewhat aware of these shadow tendencies. But when we see them played out in front of us through these gene keys placements, we can really kind of make a lot more sense of them. And it's not about not having a shadow; it's about making friends with your shadow. It's like that old saying of, it's not about just, disassociating from your ego and not having an ego and having this ego death. It's about making friends with your ego. It's about, accepting that this is a part of you and this is a tendency that you have. And there's going to be times where that shadow, that part of you, that ego part of you, is kind of going against you. So if you can just have that awareness piece, you can bring awareness into the gift and remember, what is the gift that this shadow actually gives me? And if I can emphasize that in my day to day, then I can really move past the shadow and let the shadow teach me what it was there to teach me, but also move forward from it. Yeah, this the more you do that, the more natural it becomes. And it's a process, it's something you really want to sit with, which is why you're not supposed to do the gene key pathways, one after another, or start with the ones in the middle and, move out as much as you might want to. You're really meant to sit with them slowly, which is hard for us many gens, and feel into each of those spheres and each of those gene keys, each of the shadow states, the gift states. But the more you do it, the more it becomes second nature. And then you will just start to play out your city, which is, for me, the city of the 35 is boundlessness. It's this state of the world just being your oyster and just exploring and allowing possibility to be endless. And I definitely feel that I live in my city state sometimes now, like I'm still in my gift state, I'm still in my shadow every now and again, but I feel more and more of that gift state coming in. And that's such a beautiful, exploration to go on. But just understand these things do take time to sit with. It's not something that you have to get straight away. If you get it straight away, cool. But if you don't, that's cool as well.
That's beautiful that that you can feel that resonance within yourself, and you can see it with you as well. You've got this bountiful energy. You look so healthy and radiant and shiny, so it's brilliant that, it's helped you in so many positive ways. So how do you personally use the gene keys with your clients in your own life? And how do they add more depth to the human design chart? What that's actually showing. So do you create like a report for somebody in the work that you do, or is it all done as a face-to-face consultation?
When I'm doing a reading or an unpacking, I guess you could call it, then yes, I will predominantly do their human design, because generally I work with people who are new to their human design journey, because the way that I do readings is that I teach while I'm reading. I don't just go, this is, a reading and you can come back to me for the next reading. You come back to me for the next reading. I'm happy to do it, but I teach people how to navigate this for themselves so that, they get enough information from me to really understand what they're doing, and they can digest things slowly as they go, which is really what the Gene Keys was designed to do. It wasn't designed so much for someone to do you a Gene Keys reading and give you a report and say, okay, off you go. It was more about your personal experience of unpacking it. So I'll generally do people's human design, and I like to do that via Zoom, because then we can record it. There's a lot of information, right? So we can record it. People come back to their readings multiple times in the year, and new things drop in. And then I will combine the gene keys into that reading and sort of say, okay, but that's also going to be your radiance key. That's also your life's purpose. Contemplate this, go away. And this is where you find the information around that. Go away and sit with the information of each of those keys for however long you feel right to. And then when you feel like you've really got to a place where you've digested it, move on to your next activation sequence. But the most part that I use the gene keys specifically is in my kinesiology work. So I've actually developed a process, like a human design kinesiology is what I've developed. And it's a protocol list where we actually have like basically a plan where we can go into each of these gene keys and see where there's a state of resonance that's under energy or over energy and bring it back into balance, and combining these amino acids. So using them on a physical level and unpacking the amino acids so that we can recode the DNA at a cellular level. That's what I kind of use it more for than I do with the reading side of it. I use it more on a physical level.
Wonderful. Wow. So, can you give us an example of a transformation that you've had with a particular client? Has there been somebody that really stands out that's taken on board everything that you've taught and showed them and has skyrocketed?
I think I think there are many people in their own rights that have taken things into that next level for themselves with their own work. And everyone's so individual with how they play that out. But there's definitely been some huge, like obvious shifts for people. Like I've had like one lady who had, this is going to sound bad, but it's actually the best thing forever. She had this business that she'd been kind of like dragging along for many, many years. And pretty much instantly after getting her human design done, she woke up the next day and sold the business. She was like, I'm done, pulled the pin, and started living in alignment with her design and loving life now, really thriving, really prospering, not just on that financial level, but on like a physiological level as well. So again, her design, she was a generator doing something she wasn't passionate about. Like, what are you doing? Of course you're exhausted. Like, why are you stuck here? It's all this, the generator can be the most predisposed to becoming the slave, as Ra likes to explain it, because we're so consistent. So if we're in that space of just slaving away, it ruins us from the inside out. So I've had that very extreme set of circumstances, but I've seen that circumstance many, many times over the years that I've been working with this modality, and in various different ways. Lots of projectors who understand their energy limitations, healing themselves from burnout and working in a way that actually works for them instead of what they thought they were expected to do. That's a huge one. Manifestors who are finally in loving relationships because they understand their energy and they're not trying to be somebody that they're not to appease people, squashing themselves down to be too small, or steamrolling people unintentionally because they don't understand informing. Like there's just endless situations where I've seen either people that I've worked with directly with human design, or even people who have found it outside of me, who I've spoken to, whose whole life has become much better after working with it. Yeah.
Oh, 100%. And I can, give hand evidence as well, because I've had such a massive shift in awareness of the way I function and operate from learning about my own. And it's one of those subjects, that I keep dipping back into because it is so vast. And I'm trying to work it as an experiment, as it's meant to be, and really, sort of feel into it. But it's just such an enriching subject. And it's wonderful to see how using the gene keys in conglomeration with it takes it to the next level. So, Emily, where can people find you if they've resonated with what you've said today and they're like, oh, wow, like Emily is the girl, like she knows what she's talking about? Because there are a lot of people that do human design now.
Yeah,
But I've
there is.
often found, that the people that I've come across, they haven't demonstrated the same passion, wisdom, and knowledge towards the subject that you do. So I know
Mm.
who I would be choosing moving
Ah.
forward. But, like, where do people actually find you?
Well, they can head to my website. You can either look at humandesign.kinesiology.com or emilyshine.com, two very easy ones to remember if you remember my face. And then on socials, of course, Instagram, more so than Facebook these days. So Emily Shine Kinesiology on Instagram. Yeah, I'd love to connect with you on socials. That's where I answer people the most because I am a very distracted butterfly. So see people pop up on Insta, then I will definitely get back to them fast. But otherwise, yeah, can contact me through the website. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Ah, well, wonderful. You're like a real Earth angel, and I've just noticed it's
Oh,
11 here in Perth. So that sounds like a great place to conclude the conversation. But I would love to
perfect.
have another chat with you later on down the track.
Cool.
Get you back onto the show in the future to delve deeper into the subject because it is such a vast subject. So it would be interesting if you've got any questions, please leave them in the comments below. It's just been the most illuminating conversation I've had for ages, Emily. So thank you so much for sharing all your insights and diving into the wisdom of human design with such grace and clarity. If you enjoyed this episode of Cosmic Conversations, don't forget to like and subscribe and leave a review. It helps us to reach more beautiful souls just like you who are ready to awaken to your cosmic blueprint. And if you're curious about your own human design and want to explore your soul mission through color therapy or numerology, then you can always reach out to Emily and I, and I'm sure we would be more than happy to take any questions directly as well. So thanks again for tuning in. And until next time, keep following the stars within. Have an amazing time. Bye for now.